And get excited. Get very excited. 3 months and counting until the Commonwealth Games are hosted here in Australia. For the very first time, it won't be in a big capital city. It will be hosted on the Gold Coast. And today, well, the queen of the hurdles, Sally Pearson, was checking out the new athletics track and joined by someone who you may not know as well, but I get the feeling you'll know him better by the time those games roll around. He wants a medal, and geez, he's an impressive young man. Cedric Dubler is doing something that very few Australians have done, and that is take on decathlon. You'll meet Cedric very, very soon. I don't think a little bit of I'm Still Standing is enough, is it? On ABC Radio, you're with Bern Young this evening. When you think of great athletes, who comes to mind for you? I don't know, Michael Phelps, Kathy Freeman back in her day, Usain Bolt, of course, and as great as they may be, they only have to focus on one sport. Imagine having to master 10 different sports events, because that's exactly what 22-year-old Brisbane guy, Cedric Dubler, has had to do. He is a decathlete, competing in 10 different track and field events, and he's gearing up for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, which are exactly 3 months away from today. And Cedric has been good enough to join me in our Gold Coast studios, in fact, after a press call out at the Carrara Stadium today. Hey, Cedric, good evening.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for starters, and I love what you do on your website, cedricdubler.com, if you want to check out more about Cedric. You've got quite the following, in fact, and we'll get to that. But you said you always wanted to be a sports star. You just weren't sure which sport, something along those lines. So you went for 10.
Yeah, I couldn't decide, so I did all of them. But yeah, when I was young, I did a ton of different sports. I did soccer, cross country, basketball, volleyball. I even did taekwondo for a week. And started athletics when I was in year 5 of school, and it started going well, so I joined Little Athletics. And then, as you do, you start pole vault because, that's what everyone does, right?
Really? Do they? Maybe when they're your physique. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2", so 189.
Yeah. Tall, lean.
Yeah, I was inspired by Steve Hooker at the 2008 Olympics when he won gold. So I turned to Mum and I said, Mum, I want to do that. She said, absolutely no way. But after some convincing, she let me start. And then that slowly led to the decathlon. So
How does pole vault lead to 10 sports, though? Because, Steve Hooker is 100% or was 100% into pole vault.
Well, even when I started pole vault, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. So I was still doing the hurdles, the jumps, and I was at Little Athletics as well. So I was doing some throws as well. So it was when I found a new coach for pole vault, because my old coach had to stop coaching because of work commitments. And the new coach just said, come try decathlon. You have all this background behind you. Come try it and see how you go. And we did the first one, went well, and it took off from there. Yeah.
It's interesting because there haven't been that many decathletes in the history of Australian sport. It's not like I know you've just mentioned Steve Hooker. Those in Western Australia would know him well, but I think Australians as a whole remember his amazing performances at Olympics and also World Championship level. And then, of course, you've got Sally Pearson, who's a mentor and someone to look up to in hurdles, and every sport has their mentor. But who's been yours? Who's the person who you aspire to, or how do you do it as a decathlete?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because when I was young, I didn't really have many role models in sport. I was always sort of out there doing my thing, not really paying attention to results around me or what people were doing. And over the past few years, I have sort of picked a few role models. Daley Thompson, obviously, he's a very famous English decathlete, and I was lucky enough to last year have breakfast with him and sort of pick his mind about a few things. And as well, the world record holder who retired after Rio, Ashton Eaton. I competed in his last ever competition with him, and he stopped me and he's like, "Oh, you're that young gun from Australia." And we spoke very briefly. So those were two very eye-opening experiences for me, and both athletes, I look up to them a lot.
And when you get a moment as breakfast or a chat, trackside would be, what do you ask? What did you ask?
I got into everything. trying to get an idea of how his days were, how he, like, if he focused on his strong events or his weak events, and how he sort of got so good as an athlete. So you pretty much grab every second you have with them and ask as many questions as you can. And I just tried to get as deep into Daly's mind as possible to understand where he was mentally and how he got to the stage that he was. And turns out it's just a lot of hard work and commitment.
It turns out just hard work, just hard work and commitment, Cedric. Well, that's all it takes.
Everyone assumes it, but yeah, that is what it takes.
Let me run through the events because for those who don't know the 10 sports that are involved or 10 events, on day one you do the 100 metres, the long jump, the shot put, the high jump and a 400 metres race. Then day two, is day two literally the next day?
Day two is the next day.
Wow.
So we do the 5 events on day one.
And then we come back the next day.
Yeah, we come back day two and usually like my hamstrings seized up, my glutes aren't working, like everything is just sore and then, And then you do 110 metres hurdles, Exactly.
Then you do a discus throw, a pole vault, a javelin throw, and let's just throw 1,500 metres in just for fun.
The 3 3/4 lap warm down. That's how we all see it.
Wow. I'm super impressed, Cedric.
Thank you.
You have been kind of, your own journey is out there on social media and you do this on purpose too. In fact, you're filming what we're doing right now.
I am
so where's this going to end up?
So this will end up on YouTube. I make my own daily vlog, I guess, of my training and my journey as an athlete, and I share like real life, the highs and the lows as an athlete and what we get up to outside of athletics. So this morning we were at the track for the first time. I'm now here and I'm filming it and sharing it with the internet.
Yeah. Well, admittedly, the internet can only see you. And sorry, internet. I'm over here. I'm over here. Cedric Dubler is my guest. He is an Australian decathlete, 22 years old, a Brisbane boy, but travels the world as one of Australia's very few decathletes and will be competing as part of the Commonwealth Games team. And the Commonwealth Games are being held on the Gold Coast in Australia. Of course, Australia, the host of the Games this time around, and it is now 3 months and counting today until the Games begin. You mentioned before that you spoke to Daly Thompson and Ashton Eden about their, do they focus on their weak events or do they focus on their strong events? What do you do now? And did that change anything when you spoke to them?
Yeah, so it was an eye-opening experience or an eye-opening talk that I had with Daly. We were talking about do I focus on my strengths or my weaknesses, and it comes down to a bit of both. It comes down to sort of your time management and where you can pick up points. But Daly was talking a bit about how his throws were lacking a little bit, and so every single morning he did a throw session, whether it be shot put, discus or javelin, and he rotated through those 3 every single morning. So for Daly it was about working on his weaknesses and making them stronger, but for me as well, like there are still improvements to get in the pole vault and the high jump, which are big points for me, so I do focus on those as well.
And what's your best event or events?
Oh, I would say the jumps and the hurdles. They're the big scoring events for me. Mainly the long jump and the hurdles, I would say.
Okay, they're your best.
Yes.
That's where we.
Yes.
And do you are you a contender? Do you go into the Games as a contender? Are you looking to medal?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to come away with at least a medal. I think we're all gunning for the gold, but Damien Warner from Canada is one of the favourites that will be coming over to Australia to compete, and he's a very good friend as well, so he might be, just before the Commonwealth Games, coming over and doing some training sessions together, which would be awesome. But yeah, definitely like my eyes are on the medals, and that is the goal. Training
together with one of your, toughest competitors. It sounds like a fairly kind background to decathlon.
Yeah.
What's it like? What's the scene like?
Decathlon, like one of the things I love about the decathlon is the camaraderie amongst all the decathletes. We spend 2 days out in the competition competing, I would say, with each other, because we all have strong events, we all have weak events, and we sort of just support each other through. Like, decathlon is one of the most mentally and physically draining events you can do, and so yeah, we just help each other through, and we accept that sometimes we're going to get beaten in some events and we're going to beat others in other events, and we just help each other through and support each other. And Cedric, I said before, you're only 22 years old. Yep. I know that in sporting world 22 can sometimes be events and we're going to beat others in other events, and we just help each other through and support each other.
And Cedric, I mean, I said before, you're only 22 years old.
Yep.
I know that in sporting world, 22 can sometimes be older, but in the kind of general world, you're not normally the mentor at 22. You're not normally the wise person at 22, but you seem to have a really solid head on your shoulders. Is this something you've just did you come out of the womb this way, or have you got good people around you? What is it?
It's a strong team around me, I would say. It all comes down to the strong team around me. Like, obviously, athletics is an individual sport, but, the team of physios and doctors and nutritionists and all that sort of stuff have really helped educate myself on what I need to do. And, I'm still young in my event. As you said, most decathletes peak around 28, but I still find that I can act as a role model to the younger athletes, and I try and do that through my videos.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Well, what an honour it is to meet you, in fact, Cedric, and I can't wait to see you on track 3 months and a bit, because it's 3 months today until the Commonwealth Games
It'll be
begin.
coming up quick.
I'm in the opening ceremony.
Really?
I am. I'm a volunteer performer. I'm going to be practicing dance moves.
Okay.
I thought, well, I'm never going to be an athlete. I'm never going to be in the Commonwealth Games. And they put out this call for volunteers to be performers. And I thought, well, I can't really dance.
That's awesome. I'll be looking out for you.
Yeah, I'll be the one who probably goes left when everyone else is going right or something like that. We all have our strong and weak events.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
They need all sorts to make games like this happen. So I will be part of the Commonwealth Games. You will be part of the Commonwealth Games. And it's such a pleasure to meet you, Cedric. Good luck.
You. Thanks for having me on.
On ABC Radio right around Australia, you are with Bern Young, and Cedric Dubler has been my guest, one of our few ever decathletes, and will be competing in the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games.